accessible and beneficial to our residents. So this is the benefits and housing needs service vision in the form of a tube map. Just to recap over the journey that our customers will be taking, the orange line is geared to those people that are most able to help themselves. The idea is that they will be working with self-service tools, get auto reminders. There's a specific little branch line there on that map that is geared to customers that may just need a little bit of information and advice. Moving across the map, we've got the light blue line where people need a bit more help. So we take the approach of creating a shared plan, and then we will be doing some check-in and nudging with them, perhaps a combination of auto and staff doing those. And then at the bottom, we've got the cohort of people that we know is ever increasing, that have multiple and complex needs. We would be looking towards creating a multidisciplinary plan involving different parts of the council and third parties. And the focus really on this line is creating a holistic approach to everybody's issues. There's a little line on there also that we just highlight is the crisis support. So as we're familiar with, a lot of people that fall in going to the two lines will be having, this aims to recognise that and provide that crisis. So moving on, this is what we've been going to be looking at, what we are looking at now and what we will be doing over the next 3 months. So you can see from here, it's got the tools that we're now up and running and quite familiar with. In particular, we highlight the single view and SMS. And then the ones in field highlighted that we're working on now, an example of that being understanding vulnerability and evidence store. This is all working forward to reduce our usage of universal housing and to create more flexible tools that we can use easier. So moving forward, the focus going forward from 3 to 12 months. These are some of the ideas that we may be looking at going forward, and in no particular order. Again, focus on reducing our usage of UH and creating a bank of flexible tools, like I just mentioned, so that it's easier for customers and staff to use the service. So what we're doing today. So these are the tools we're focusing on today: understanding vulnerability, evidence store, self-service tools, and shared plan.
And up first, thank you, Claire. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So understanding vulnerability, first update from us. So you should be quite familiar with the Understanding Vulnerability tool, as we've presented it over the last couple of show and tells. So it's a tool to help, firstly, the benefits and housing needs service, but hopefully looking further ahead, the whole council, to start capturing vulnerabilities and strengths and assets of a person when they interact with the council, to help build a bigger picture of that person's situation so that we can respond to them better and collect better information about that person, so that people interested in the person later down the line will have a better idea of what we have been doing, what their journey is, and how we should respond to that person. So where in the tube map is it? So it's the bit right at the beginning. So after approach, understanding which tube line best suits that person coming to the service. So understanding whether that person is willing or able to potentially self-serve, support themselves into settled accommodation, or whether they need a little bit more support from the council. So what we've done, so over the last 2 weeks, we have built the tool. So we have a working, what we call it, MVP of the solution. So it's now, Matt will give a demo in a minute, but we have a tool which allows people to capture vulnerabilities and assets, with also a case note as well. And we have connected it to single view. So anything collected in the tool will pull through into a case note into single view, so that anyone else looking at that person's single view can also see that information. We've also started to, or continued to build the knowledge bank, which we've spoken to you about on other show and tells. So a kind of a resource bank full of things that you could be suggesting to clients to help them with whichever situation they have. So over to Matt for the demo.
Good morning. So this morning I'm just going to show you what we've been building the last couple of weeks. Can you hear me all right? Yep, cool. So if you have a look here at the single view, I've got this rather bare record for myself, but there's a new box in town with a big button, add a vulnerability snapshot. Now that's not going to be turned on. It's going to be turned off by default. So people that are testing it will turn them on one by one. But once the flag's enabled for you, you'll see this box. And if I click it, it'll take me through to my new app, hopefully. So you can see here, we've got a bunch of kind of categories, I guess, to explore with the resident. If I open them out, you'll be able to see them in their kind of full detail. After chatting with the resident, you might identify a couple of areas that kind of match up that you want to highlight. So I can highlight vulnerabilities here on the left, or strengths or assets here on the right for each of the categories. I can also add a couple of notes down the bottom. And then I can save it. What we're looking at doing in the upcoming weeks is obviously these are just sort of options that might apply to a number of people, but you might want to add some custom ones. So we're going to add the ability to add other assets or vulnerabilities for a resident with some sort of input box. And also when we select certain things, we might want to give some guidance to things you could ask. So for example, with the support needs, if you check that there's an active case, you might want to just give a prompt to ask to speak to a support worker or something like that. So once we've filled out our info, we'll kind of get a overview of what we've captured. And then when we head back to the single view, now you'll see these things highlighted here in this box on the left, and it'll also appear in your activity feed. So obviously over time, these things might change a little bit, so you can then add another snapshot and that'll appear in your feed at a different date. I'll hand you back to Al now.
Thank you. That was slicker than we did in rehearsal. So can everyone see my presentation again? Hopefully. I'm going to continue because I can't hear anyone. So that's what we've got. So what's next is we want to start testing this with some officers. So testing, is it usable? Is it useful? And also, does it help support staff and residents, like add value to staff and residents? So by being able to show this information in single view, does it help staff who then interact with that person after that date to know how to respond or to have a different conversation with that person, and potentially understand how to best support them better? So as Matt said, in the next couple of sprints, we want to start building in these suggested next steps. So the idea is we want to hook this tool up to the knowledge bank, which Emily has been generating, thanks to a lot of your input from a couple of show and tells ago. So you gave us a lot of ideas for resources that you already give to customers to help them support themselves. So we're going to hook this tool up to that knowledge bank. So when you select different vulnerabilities or different assets, you'll get kind of tailored suggestions that you can give to that person so that they know what to do next. We're also going to add a link into guidance around how to have better conversations with people. So we also collected in another show and tell, you gave us ideas about how you can have better conversations with people, more open conversations, to be able to start capturing this information. So we're going to create some guidance in there so that whilst you're using this tool, you can have some kind of guidance there to know how to best use the tool, how to best have a conversation with the person, either on the phone or if they're there in front of you. So the keen-eyed amongst us, you'll see that the colours that we're using are aligned with the colours on the tube map. So the blue for vulnerability, so being that potentially if this person has one or a few of these vulnerabilities, they may well need some more supported casework from us. But the yellow indicating that potentially this person may well have the ability or have the kind of strengths or assets around them to be able to self-serve. So it's trying to link everything together. So everything we're doing is all aligned and anchored back to that service vision that we keep showing you at every single show and tell. So the second project update, hopefully Ben is on the call.
I am. Hello everyone. So going to give you a quick update on where we're at with the project that we're calling the Evidence Store. So previously we'd done a prototype really to allow customers to upload documents through an online tool, predominantly around the issues with the building being closed and not being able to bring documents into the building. So if you go to the next slide. So let's start stepping back as to why we're looking at this as a thing to build. So evidence documents are, they're all over the place in the housing needs, benefits and housing needs area. They're stored in lots of different systems, UH, Camino, Jigsaw, to name a few. Now they're often, we found, duplicated across these systems because officers quite rightly want to help other people find these documents, so they put them in all three places. But that also leads to kind of a sort of confusion around, which one is most valid or most recent, or, it's not clear that they are the same. And we found that, officers often have to ask customers for the same documents again and again because different parts of the service, are asking for different documents for different reasons, but they're actually asking for the same document. So if you slip forward, next slide. So what we're really doing is kind of iterating the existing customer upload tool, so that at the moment, the upload tool just keeps those documents in its own kind of little Dropbox, and those documents then have to be downloaded by business support and uploaded again to the systems, kind of in a way, not really helping the problem. So what we're trying to do is make it so that officers can send out a Dropbox to a person that's already sort of tagged with their information. And then once that they can upload documents to that Dropbox, then the documents then will show up in single view already linked to that user. So it tries to bring document management a little bit more under control, so that we're not kind of we're not having those documents exist in their own parallel world. They're tying into single view. And we're also looking at being able to upload documents from single view, so in a more kind of ad hoc way. So if you do get a document emailed to you or however it comes in, then we can put those in there. There's a question now about Camino. I don't know if are we doing questions now, Elle, or are we doing them at the end? I have to answer it.
Completely up to you.
So Camino is one of the areas that we're looking at to understand the impact of moving some of the documents out. At the moment, the documents that we're looking at are just the ones that are kind of coming in a sort of ad hoc way. But we have integrations with Camino, so we're exploring how we would more easily link the two together, so that it's quite a smooth process between the two. So yeah, Camino is on our radar as an issue to deal with. Next slide. And so where this is in the bigger picture, it's obviously for that initial gathering of information from a customer for opening a case, for starting to understand. Although it does tie into sort of, it's probably scattered throughout the process of the the journey with a customer, because as people's circumstances change, evidence documents can be uploaded again to support that. So it'll be sort of spread throughout. It's quite a general purpose tool, but used predominantly up front. And I'm going to hand over to Bogdan.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk a bit about the technical spike that we've been doing during the last 2 weeks and the learnings that we've got from that. So first of all, we can upload documents and associate them with customers. We can then search for documents based on customer information like name, date of birth, or national insurance number, and so on. We can store customer documents separately from customer information, which adds an extra layer of security as resident data can't be manipulated. This is going to be a reusable tool that can be easily integrated with other services, which then will speed up the delivery process of other services that depend on this one. And to give you a bit of an example of how this tool might work, we are storing a customer ID, which can associate an uploaded document to a customer record in single view. And the service will run on AWS, which means that the code is fully managed and there is no need for ongoing maintenance or managing the storage space. And here's the plan on how we're going to do it. First of all, we're going to go and build the MVP. Then we're going to integrate it with the customer document uploads project. After that, we're going to integrate it with single view to improve the document upload experience for officers. And in the end, we'll test and see if it adds any value. And then we'll explore other places where this makes sense to be integrated with other tools.
So self-service tools. So within the service vision, I was talking about at the beginning and that you're all familiar with, these are to help people traveling along the orange line and to help people just here for general information and advice. So 2 weeks ago at the show and share session, we gave people the chance to vote on what they thought were the top 3 ideas for the self-service tools. And I think on the next slide, so there we go, the top 3 ideas. So there were a self-service plan, that links and resources for finding a privately rented property, automated SMS reminders to nudge residents along their self-service journey, and one bank of resources for all useful tools and links so that customers can share it, but also that would be really useful for staff as well. So what we did was split the first idea down into 2 areas. The first one being calculating what I can afford. So the team has been learning a lot about the numerous variables that a lot of you will be familiar with when our customers try and find properties, in particular, the importance of the LHA rate, the implications of the benefit cap, and the impact that has on areas that people can live in, how much they might have to contribute to their rent, and whether they've got the required amount left over to live on. So this is a screen print of a link to the spreadsheet that we've now got a couple of officers onboarded with in the housing supply team that are going to be trying it out with customers. It enables people to put a postcode in. They can see immediately, you'll see from that whether or not the rent is above or below the LHA rate. And there's some information provided on what their contribution to the rent with and what any remaining living allowance would be. So I think can everybody else see the slides because I've lost them? If not, can you give me a shout?
Yeah, we can see them.
You can see my pictures. So the second prototype we're looking at is more specifically based around the purple looking for a property guide that some of you might be familiar with. It's aimed to make that much more interactive but follow similar steps that are already in there. The links would be live to useful websites. It would also link in with the bank of resources that we were talking about as one of the other top 3 options. It could include other areas such as tenancy sustainment. It will be available to residents, obviously, via the Hackney website, and they can check off their actions as they go along. And this would link in with the automation we've also talked about. So what's next? So we're going to be testing these with the housing supply, housing advice and customer services teams. Like I say, the first one, we've already got a couple of officers from housing supply onboarded and ready to test. The aim is to find out if the tools are useful, easy to use and understandable. And then also what we're going to be looking at is creating early designs of what the tools might actually look like for customers, because obviously the spreadsheets we have at the moment are just prototypes so that staff can use them and find out if the basic ideas work. Over to Shared Plan.
Good morning, everybody. So lastly, I'll update you on Shared Plan, which is a tool that we've been developing to enable officers and residents to collaborate on a shared plan of action. And this is where the shared plan fits in with the overall service vision. So it can be used in different parts of the service to support varying levels of need. On the orange line at the top, the shared plan can be used as a self-service tool. The light blue line is where we've been focusing most of our efforts so far, and this is around creating shared plans with residents that can provide check-ins and nudges over time, and these can work as PHPs. And then on the dark blue line at the bottom, this is about using the shared plan in a multidisciplinary team environment to support more complex cases. So in case you missed the last session, we demoed a working version of the shared plan, which can now be used as a PHP replacement in live cases. Next slide, please. And so what we planned to do this sprint didn't quite go to plan. So we wanted to test the shared plan with 10 live PHP cases. And to do this, we wanted to recruit 10 residents via the housing officers. And we planned to follow up with each of those residents to get their thoughts on feedback, to get their thoughts on the plan that they'd received. And we were going to send 5 residents a PHP from Jigsaw and then 5 residents a PHP using the shared plan, and then interview them afterwards to see if there was any difference in the feedback. Next slide, please. So what's been difficult about this? So it's been hard to get officer involvement. I appreciate everybody's extremely busy at the moment, but it was quite disappointing that we only had a couple of people volunteer to help. And then of those 2 that did volunteer, not all of the residents that they spoke to in their appointments were actually having new PHPs created. So there wasn't much opportunity. And then from our side as well, we also underestimated the ease of us copying the PHPs over from Jigsaw to Shared Plan ourselves. And one of the reasons being is that the officer name was automatically added to the plan. And while that's great in a real life scenario, it wasn't appropriate for my name when I was logged in to appear on the plans that I was creating on behalf of officers. So what have we done instead? So we sent an automated SMS survey to everybody that's had a PHP created during May. There's an example of that on the right-hand side, and that's gathering responses at the moment. And at the end of that survey, we've asked people if they'd like to take part in a further research session with us. So we've recruited a few people from that, and then Ahmed's also been great and got a couple more. So in total, we've got 5 people now to interview next sprint. And some exciting news is that Ahmed has also created our first live Shared Plan PHP. So this is how it looks. I've blacked out the names here because we're recording this. And that's how it looks on a computer and on mobile. So massive thank you to Ahmed, and he's also given us some feedback, which we'll try and play now.
So how do I think it would go? I think it would go great. If this is like executed properly, this could be a game changer. Like I think I said before, it's very useful, very straightforward and streamlined. You know, at the moment, even though the PHP on Jigsaw is on one page, there's so many different elements that you have to do that feel like unrelated from each other. This one, though, it feels a bit less clunky, and there's no chance of me forgetting something. So there's one thing that you could do on Jigsaw, which is not great, which is if you don't pick the PHP action, meaning PHP option, meaning that the action that you're inputting is for the PHP, it's going to take it as a general action, which does not auto-populate onto any PHP that you want to generate in future. And that is just a waste of time, honestly, because I've forgotten to tick the PHP option multiple times. And I just find I need to re-input what I've done. It's long. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent with that one, but it's annoying is the point. And if this helps us to not have to, let our mistakes, mean we don't have to pay for our mistakes, I'm all for it. Honestly, I'm all for it. In terms of what's bad about it at the moment, the date, when you're inputting the date, just for it to intuitively know that, in the day field, they can only be 2 digits, and after 2 digits, then she jump to the month field, and after the month field, she jump to the year field. At the moment, I can put in like seemingly infinite amount of numbers in the day field, and when people are pressed for time or just very busy, simple things like manually moving the cursor into the month field and the year field before you input it is kind of a long thing. What else is wrong with this? Could use a date by the overall goal so that we know that the overall goal is also time limited and we know what kind of time frame we're working with for that, in addition to the time frame that we have for PHP review. If this works, man, you'd be taking some time off my day, and I'd appreciate it.
So again, thank you very much to Ahmed for that. So what's next? So this current sprint, we're going to be looking into how the shared plan can integrate into the current workflow and provide the necessary H-click reporting, and also how can we make it easier for officers to add pre-populated resources and actions to the shared plan. And then lastly, if you create PHPs, we really do need your feedback. So I'd like to do some one-to-one 30-minute sessions with you over Google Hangouts where we can create a shared plan PHP together that can be sent to one of your residents. So I've put some suggested times here, but we can be very flexible. So please, if this applies to you, you put your name down in the chat, and then we can sort out dates and times later. Thank you.
Just to chip in, we really need the help with this, guys. So you guys have got the knowledge with links with the customers, and to progress it, we really need you. So at this point, I would usually be blocking the door, but it's a bit difficult to do that now. I haven't worked out how to do that virtually, so we're just going to have to rely on your good nature. And I've got a couple of volunteers. I know Ellen has shouted up already, but any more, please let us know. Dates and times are flexible. We'll fit around you, but we really want to progress this soon.
Any more volunteers then? If there are no volunteers, does anyone have any questions for any of the projects?